Hello and welcome to bonus episode of Triangle Squared. With me this week is this weekend, it's PSX weekend, is Blaze. He's been on the podcast once before whenever Saul was out. He had to fill in for him. So Blaze is not completely new to you if you've been listening to a long time, but he may be new to you if you've joined us recently. We are at PSX like we said, so this is kind of our bonus extra episode that we had said we were going to do. No, we said we were going to put it out Saturday and that didn't happen, so... Yeah, hey, things happen. PSX is kind of crazy anyway. But we decided to pull off and wait because we had, watched the press conference, and that was originally when I planned on doing it, but we didn't know how much the conference was going to reveal. So then we decided to kind of get on the show floor a little bit, kind of see games that we thought we'd, what stood out the most to us so that we could come back and kind of share our thoughts on those and kind of have a more comprehensive PSX episode where it's more than just the show. It's more than just the showcase or whatever they wanted to call that, since it was a little smaller. It's also the show floor and kind of a whole of how it went down this year. So, like I said, this is Blaze. You can normally find us, when I don't mess up posting the episodes early, on YouTube and SoundCloud on Mondays at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time and 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is where we are right now. So go ahead and get into this. I have some notes, Blaze, from this press conference. We're going to start off kind of going over our thoughts of the press conference. So, as they've kind of mentioned in the past, this was meant to be a little bit of a smaller thing. Coming off Paris Games Week, they wanted to make sure that this was a little bit of a smaller, more intimate, I guess. Really, that's probably the best word to use for it. Showcasing or get together, as they kind of worded it. You kind of knew from the moment they came out that they were sitting on
sitting on couches. They were coming out producer at a time.
Yeah, I mean, but it was really hangouty and like, hey, here we are. We're just gonna kind of interview people, talk to people that are, Sean Layden came out, developers that are kind of big came out and just did a bunch of talking, which was cool. I mean, it was good seeing a lot of this stuff out there and kind of getting the questions, and the hangout nature was kind of cool, and even them kind of just riding each other about release dates and stuff.
I liked it a lot, and that's what I was expecting. But right at first, when they came out with that scissor reel, that was like...
Yeah, the sizzle reel was
reel with new sound system that was just shaking the whole arena, lights going off.
Like, watch them pull the one over on everyone.
It was like, okay, we were just shitting with you.
No, it's actually going to be amazing. The Last Guardian 2. I don't even know. Yeah. Uncharted 5
that's how it came out. It came out really powerful, and then they came down and sat down in the chair.
Yeah, but it was cool. I mean, it was different. But I think, the fact that they opened with a sizzle reel, that's fine. It's kind of recapping things that we've seen and things that came out this year. But
why wouldn't they? Right.
Exactly. But, normally their press conference thing is come out with like a really short talk, nothing on stage or anything, come back in, and then bam, trailer. That's kind of how they've been opening their things. That's what people like about Sony. They've been having this like really relentless pacing to their showcases. So with this one being a little bit different, I think just the way they set it up was enough to kind of give you the idea that it was going to be smaller, different. But, I mean, they still showed enough games. So one of the things I found most interesting about the showcase as a whole is that they started out with VR. And everything they talked about at the beginning was VR, which is good because, I mean, as we
VR has a big presence on the show floor.
Exactly. And, I don't know. I know that we follow news a little bit differently, but VR has shipped over 2 million units now, which is impressive. I mean, it's not impressive compared to the
a price drop
PS4.
Coming.
Yeah, I already had a price drop, at least. No, it's weird.
There's a $200 bundle.
Yeah, well, right now they're doing a thing where, I don't know about $200. I haven't seen that one just yet, but there's a thing going on right now where if you are a PS Plus user, certain people are just getting chosen for them to send it to you, and they put a hold on your account. If you decide you don't like it, you can send it back. But if you decide you want to keep it, it's only $250, which is $50 less than the standard bundle. And it's the Skyrim VR bundle that they're sending out.
So that's already a good deal, too.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
I saw that floating around Twitter, so we'll see on that.
We'll see. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if they can get it down that low, but, they did release a new model.
At that price point, it would really...
That would be interesting, but I think $250 would be if they're going to price drop it, $250 seems more reasonable. But
it depends
maybe
if they include the game with it.
If it's a bundle or not, maybe just be the headset by itself is $200.
Very big presence.
Going to go ahead and go over the first couple of games they announced. So these are actually new announcements, which is pretty awesome. First one is PSVR title Firewall 0 Hour, and this is kind of like, if you had to say a VR title that's most like, it's kind of like Bravo Team. It's very tactical based, 4v4 setup, and it's
Literal first-person shooter.
Literal first-person shooter. It looked really good. But they didn't show enough about it. We do know that it's going to be supported by the PSVR aim controller, which is a nice move because as soon as that... I mean, I bought it because I wanted to play Farpoint with it, but I did hope that it didn't suffer the same fate as like the sharpshooter, which, you know, I had whenever Killzone 3. But very few games ended up using the sharpshooter. It looks like we're already getting more games that are going to use this aim controller, so that was good to see. I mean, I know that VR is a little different for Blaze. He kind of just doesn't worry too much about it because of the fact that he has motion sickness, or he's prone to motion sickness. So there's certain experiences he can kind of get away with, like Job Simulator. It's real standard. You're
the typical
still.
standard VR experience I'm fine with. Stuff like the Wipeout Vr that's coming. I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
That one looks actually. Even the guy on the stage said something about
motion sickness. Yeah. So it's cool. Yeah, they did announce Wipeout VR, which is add on to. And that's the coolest thing I have to say is that they could have easily been like, here it is, Wipeout VR. You have to pay for it again, but it's just an update to the Wipeout Omega Collection that came out earlier this year. So that's a nice gesture for them to do, and it's coming early 2018. So that's good to see. The last VR game they talked about was The Last Guardian experience, which is like a small 20-minute level segment that is first person, and you get to like call Trico down and stuff like that. That's a cool thing to see. I think it's more interesting that after that, that Ueda-san was still, down to come back. Okay, well, we're going to create more of a, intimate first person, smaller experience, just so everybody can kind of get their heads in the world and be able to actually experience it as a as a visual, like, okay, I'm going to look around this world freely and interact with this world freely, and being able to call Trico down and stuff. That's really cool. Yeah. I think that those are one of the...
That'd be a neat standalone experience.
Yeah, again, and it's experience. The thing is that it's free. And that's what they were calling it, like a Christmas present to us. But it's free. You don't even have to have The Last Guardian to use it. Those kind of experiences for free are just nice because it lets you kind of get your head into a world that
It's incentive to try out
VR.
It's like, well, if I'm already buying this piece of hardware,
and now I have these small experiences
games.
to have a reason to kind of get into it, figure out.
Because I know a lot of people after Batman Job Simulator, a lot of people might not have stepped into things like Skyrim, and they want to kind of introduce them. Hey, this is the world we can create.
Yeah, because Skyrim's. The fact that it's an old game is really. Some people are complaining, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's even if it's PS3 game, it's open world. It's still the first game of that scope and scale to be available in VR, and that's impressive in and of itself.
Yes.
So, moving on from VR, though, they did come out with Cory Barlog, and he talked about God of War. Sadly, we did not get a date, and I really expected to get a date. They're still calling spring, but go ahead, yeah.
I think that they had a date originally, and coming up, maybe, who knows how long they planned this out, but surely, I think a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, they might have come to him and been like, hey, we don't need to show that date.
Well, it's interesting.
If we show that date, that's a promise. And
they're so gun-shy about giving dates to anything because they've just been gotten
2015 was the year of.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even Horizon got pushed back. I mean, that's just a thing
true.
They still keep facing is pushbacks on games. And
because
The Last Guardian got pushed back. I'm fairly positive.
Well, the more
Gravity Rush 2 got pushed back because of The Last Guardian getting pushed back. So I mean,
they didn't want to conflict the dates. But the more ambitious they get with these games, like he said while they were interviewing and talking to him, they went from this game being a typical God of War 10-hour game. He's like, they're going on 23, 30 hours now.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Which is really interesting for a God of War game because it's like, okay, what are you going to fill in that? What kind of content's filling that in? Is it 23 hours of straight fighting, straight?
And he's mentioned
it.
He's mentioned it before.
Introducing kind of the pseudo RPG.
Yeah.
Like Horizon, where you don't have to do it, but it's there if you want.
Well, yeah, he says it's like a world that you want to explore and that you want to kind of derail. And like he used the tour bus thing where it's like, here's the tour bus, you can get off, go check this out, but the tour bus is still there to get you back on. And he talked about that with following a narrative thread, which is obviously important because a lot of people have this, I disagree with it, but a lot of people in the industry say that Kratos was a very one-dimensional character. And while that was true...
And I think they want to flesh him out.
Often.
Because I think this would be the last game with Kratos, which we assumed last, but
apparently there's word that this may be a new trilogy.
Really?
Now, there's no way to know
that. But if you're starting a new trilogy and you flesh Kratos out, take away the biggest complaint, hey, here's a new world, we're not in Greek stuff anymore, Kratos isn't a pissed off asshole anymore, he's got a son, he's this and that,
Well, my favorite thing that they continue to show is that he has the ability to be that same old asshole.
Well, and the
but he's
combat
like
looks
obviously
a lot
working
different.
on it.
And they showed a little bit of gameplay while on the floor and on the video.
Yeah, and actually,
the
on the
looks
floor, it's a lot.
developed.
They showed a lot more. Now,
you know,
the PGW trailer is the one they showed this year again. I mean,
yeah, the same gameplay.
So the same gameplay. He gave a little more context to it. But
yeah, and talking about how they recently added in the voice of the son talking to you in the combat. And
yeah,
it feels like they got feedback on how that the kid needs to shut up a little bit. Is what he said.
Yeah,
he seemed very just defeated to be there. Though I will say he was.
I like how they kind of played off each other and say like, "Here's a
shit.
Here's a guy who shipped his game. Here's a guy who
hasn't shipped his game."
Yeah. So, but I mean, that was cool. I'm still excited for God of War, but I'm hoping that. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's almost impossible that it's going to be bad.
It's not. Yeah, but I really doubt first quarter this year. I really doubt it. I say.
Yeah,
with this kind of, if you don't have but a minute of was it even a minute of gameplay when your game is supposedly, let's say, 4.5 months.
Yeah, but on the show floor they showed a lot more, and they showed
still,
and there's the beginning scene where they showed at E3. But yeah, it's
not even a lot like a live demo or anything.
I think the most telling thing is that, like we said on the show floor, that they're still calling for an early or a spring release 2018, which is somewhere in the vicinity of Horizon. But with that being said, Horizon was playable at PSX last year when its date was already set.
It was playable,
and that's
and
not
looked
true of
amazing.
this one. They're calling it Q1, Q2 release, spring, whatever you want to call that. But it's still not playable on the show floor. I don't know if
I'd say it's going to be summer.
I don't know.
And it's hard to tell.
It's still interesting that they chose not to have it playable at all, but it may be that Horizon was playable because the fact that it's a pure open world, that you're not going to give as much of the game away, whereas if they let people play God of War, they risk giving a little too much information away. Not sure about that one, but the only thing that's weird about it not having a date is that the PS Store had a March 20-something date come up and then got pulled.
Well, and that can go back to this fact that with PSX coming up, they were like, hey, we're going to announce the date. It's going to go live for pre-orders on PS. And then they came to them like, hey, guys.
Can't do it.
And then like, oh, shit, take it down.
Yeah, that's very well could be it. So next update we got was Dreams. And, they did say that this press conference is going to be updates on a few games as well as, small surprises. But, so we got an update on Dreams. Dreams, I don't want to say disappointed me. I know more about it. It's good to see that it does have a story mode. The fact that the story mode seems a little...
And this is going to... Yeah, this is going to be a game...
It's cut up in a weird way.
This is going to... Unlike Little Big Planet 2. Little Big Planet 2 had you had your story. A lot of people like to play the story. I think this is going to be people mess around with the story, and then they get just balls deep in the creative mode.
But how does that do? That's
I've
my concern
from on the floor, and it is very fleshed out, and it is very they've got a lot done.
Well, yeah,
I'm really surprised they didn't give a specific.
Yeah, but it's interesting because like where I stand on Media Molecule is that obviously I love the Little Big Planet games. I have a lot of memories of that, but even the Little Big Planet games, I got it's just time. I mean, some people want to sink their lives into that create motive
aspect.
And inside of that, it's just how do you actually have the time? Some people can devote their time to that, but most won't. And then if you make it where the storyline isn't quite as,
but it looked good though. I mean,
it's hard to say. It's just
it wasn't enough to be like, well, hey, here's the idea behind the story. They were just like, here's some screens, here's some footage.
Well, and they said it's like Art's dream, and he's the guy, and it's going to have different gameplay segments where they're like sci-fi ones and then noir ones. It feels like it's more segmented, which was an issue that Beyond Two Souls faced, where it kept trying to change genres, and it felt like it wasn't very cohesive. And then the fact is, I mean, even with that being said, it still looks less. What's a good word for it? It looks like it's less mainstream appeal than Little Big Planet had. So Little Big Planet sold well because of its cutesy platforming, roots.
I feel like it's going to end up like that Move game, the Puppet Move game.
Oh, Puppeteer?
Puppeteer. Oh, man, it was very, very good game. It had crazy good reviews, but it just didn't sell because people were like, well, besides the Move.
Well, actually, I'm going to say, I'm not going to say it wasn't it was a bad game. I didn't play it because I played I played an hour and a half or 2 hours of it and just didn't get into it. And I was like, don't have the time to keep playing.
But it's the same thing. It's very creative, very neat. Neat ideas, and it's just
okay. Yeah. I mean, that was a string of that. So next thing up, Detroit had its play along. Oh, one more thing about Dreams. No date at all.
No date at all.
I mean, they say it's aimed for 2018 release, and they seem like they were confident in saying that. But then they followed it up with the fact that the beta that was supposed to be available last year at this time
It
still doesn't have a date.
Still doesn't have it.
And they say, well, there's going to be a beta, but we're not ready to announce a date. How? That's wild. They shouldn't have said we're going to be at PSX, but I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are like, Dreams missed another PSX. That game is just in trouble. At least showing it, I guess, gives them a little bit of the game is obviously coming along. It's something,
and that might have some more to do with the fact of why the suddenly announced, hey, we're doing a small keynote, hey, we're doing this, and then use their trailers for a lot of the the VGAs and the Paris Games Week.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because the fact that they even showed Dreams at the
I'm sure there
Game
was
Awards,
a big conference table meeting where everyone's like, shit.
Oh man, I don't know. It's
very.
It's just been a weird weekend, but I mean, we're going to move on into, after we get through with kind of recapping what we thought about the showcase, we'll move on to that. But next thing up was Detroit Play Along, which was interesting because they got the idea from the Until Dawn Play Along they did, but the Until Dawn was a very binary decision, so it was one or the other, whereas a lot of what was going on was like, walk over here, and then people just yelling and being ridiculous. But the idea and spirit was fun, and it was really tense, and it showed how, everybody had very different ideas
people
of what
started
to do.
getting serious real quick. They went from being like, kiss them to like, don't shoot him, don't shoot him.
Yeah, when it came to, honestly, the moment that switched everything is when it came to the gun. The gun under the table, everybody's like, wait a minute, take the gun. Don't take the gun. And then they ended up taking the gun, and you're like, I was sitting there like, damn it.
And, I don't know. I kind of like that they took the gun. That was kind of a interesting side of the, you thought it was going to be kind of passive.
And I know it didn't show it because it moved around too quick. I don't. But one of the things is when you go to pick up the gun, I remember from the original trailer that they showed of this back when they showed it at E3 last year. There's when you go to reach for the gun and you pick it up, it says androids are not permitted to use guns of any type. So technically, he was breaking a rule by using the gun. And I mean, you know what I mean? It's just interesting that, that was kind of my whole thing is like, well, I'm not supposed to be doing this. There's ways around it. I don't want to kill the android if I don't have to. I don't want to risk, it's interesting. The ending they went with.
That's why their games appeal so much.
Exactly, the different decisions. But it was interesting to see how tonally quick it shifted from people messing around. The fish, honestly, some people were like, oh my God, this fish. I like that. I like how everybody's like, save the fish! But more worried about saving the fish and saving the daughter, at least at first. Because when they go out, when Connor goes outside, it really shifted. So that was interesting. But seeing it, getting the idea that that's going to be a spring 2018 game, I really expected that to be a little bit later.
Well, but from looking at the tech demo and on the floor, it's moving along just fine.
Absolutely. It looks fantastic. It looks like a finished product. At this point, I'm sure it's just constant making sure that these trails, because it's all it is branching paths and dialogue branching paths and making sure that every decision goes and when that decision happens, it plays smoothly through that. Smoothie. I'm hungry.
And then speaking of hungry, next game.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a game. Donut County, which is probably the highlight of the night in terms of just the trailer setup because it was really tongue in cheek and
it went from being such a let's show these serious games.
Detroit was so serious that Donut County coming after it was like a really nice relief, and it was just really comedic. The whole tongue in cheek stuff about the PlayStation egos, you could tell that
does it have trophies?
Yeah, but does it have a platinum trophy? Yeah, and then
60 frames.
Yes, that was a joke all night. That was the Accounting Plus joke too. It runs as 60 frames.
We promise you, it's only in the secret level though.
So that's a goofy looking game, like a weird sense of humor for it. Gotta fix that. Make sure it didn't go off. But yeah, that was a weird looking game. It's like you have a hole, and then you move the hole around. It's got puzzles. If you saw it, it's got a crazy looking art style, but it looks really fun. It looks cute. As long as it's priced correctly, it looks like a game that I'm very interested in. Yeah,
$20 game.
$20 or less, I'm happy.
I like the it seems like they have the puzzles and the world building going. And
because at first when it was just a whole thing, I was like, but then they were like, well, you can swallow the kiln and use that to puzzle solve, and like your whole cast.
45 minute trailer, I was sold. So that's all you need on a game that give it a $20 price point. Just move on. That's a game that people be like, especially if it has a window of release in between big things. Just something be like,
absolutely.
Oh well, I don't have none to play till so and so comes out. Oh, this looks this fun. I remember this trailer.
Yeah. So after that, they kind of went back to the VR front, which is kind of weird because it's the only time that something VR was mentioned again. I don't know why they didn't pull it up, but the beginning was more like first party VR stuff. This one is Jupiter and Mars. So this was the dolphin game, kind of
with
swimming
the
around.
whale, and it was they're both dolphins apparently, but there was whales in.
But there were whales in the game, which I don't know. It's one of those weird things where depending on how it controls and how that ends up coming around, it could be really interesting. But it doesn't quite appeal to me just yet.
It doesn't show what you would actually be trying to do. At first, I thought it was a more of an experience game, like. What was that game where you go through and the landscape starts changing and the colors start changing based on where you go and where you start picking up? It was a game. It was on PS3 and I think it came on PS4 also.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, like you go to different parts of the landscape and the music will change, the seasons will change, and there's a couple like objectives you could do. But it's kind of an exploring experience game. And that's what I thought this was when it first started.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. About what game you're talking about on PS3, but.
I'm sure I'll remember the name later.
Hey, if you know it, let us know. So I'm going to move on from that one. It looked interesting, but if you saw it, I mean, it seems like it's more trying to be an artsy piece for VR, but that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Next thing got quite a big applause from a lot of people was Blaze Blue, however the hell you say it. Cross Tag Battle, which is, Arc Systems works. It's the same team that's doing Dragon Ball FighterZ. It's good to see them coming back. That's a series they've been working on forever. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that because personally fighting games are just... They're different for me. I probably won't play that game, just to be honest. And actually, the next game is something I probably won't play as well, but I know that it does have a pretty rabid fan base. It's Soulcalibur 6. Of course, they showed that at the Game Awards the night before, but we got a little more of a more fleshed out.
Was it one more character?
Well, it was the same two characters, but they fleshed out each of their fighting style a little bit more. Okay. And they talked about it a little bit. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting, but...
I'm not sold.
Soulcalibur is not one of those things that's really big for me. I just...
I mean, it's one of those games I'll play once it goes down a little bit.
Well, and some people kind of play them every now and then just hop in because they normally have the console-exclusive characters like they did Kratos and PSP and stuff. But I don't know. It's interesting. Now, the next one that actually I was pretty excited for, and then I ended up going and playing the demo, Monster Hunter World got like a story trailer, kind of an idea of what's actually going on. And it's interesting to see this game have this much voice acting, this much actual what looks like cutscene shots, because the other Monster Hunters just didn't have that there. I mean, it's Monster Hunter.
What I'll say is, when I saw the trailer, I just wasn't, I'm not a huge Monster Hunter fan. I wasn't really just sold with the trailer. But watching or going on the floor, seeing the demo, and how smooth it played, and the objective, because the video actually kind of looked kind of choppy.
Well,
and it seemed out of sync almost. I was like, oh, is this going to be kind of a bad port? Or
it's a lip sync issue. I saw that myself, and I don't know if that'll be fixed by the time of release, but it's a small.
But anyway, the gameplay
niggle for that. So
because before that's just a trailer. So, but as far as watching the gameplay, it was very smooth watching y'all play. It was very. I really, I went from being like, man, I'm probably not going to play this game to, man, I should have stayed in line with you guys.
Being on the show floor for that, the only thing that sucks is that 5 people can't play it because it's 4 players max. But the working together aspect was really cool. The biggest issue we had when we were playing is that my headset wasn't working, so it kept cutting in and out of audio, so we had issues actually trying to communicate with each other on it. But it was still fun. The woman finally came around, tried getting it to work. It didn't end up working out. Yeah. But she told us a little more about what we're supposed to do. But still,
a lot of that's disappointing when you wait in a line for
that long and then have a kind of a weird experience. But it's okay. I mean, it was still fun. It sold me because we're missing out on the beta right now, obviously. It sold me on the experience. I hope they extend the beta so I get a little more personal time with it. I would really enjoy that, but I don't know if it's actually going to go down. Let's see. The next thing was the fact that Mega Man's going to be in Monster Hunter.
I love Mega Man. But
and I like Mega Man. I won't go as far as to say I love it. I like Mega Man. I enjoy the games.
You've been hearing my ringtones and notifications all weekend.
Yeah.
And I was just like, really? He looked like Minecraft Mega Man inside a world he didn't need to be in. And I was just like, just shit.
The animations are really goofy, but I don't know.
And it was disappointing because you see Mega Man go across screen, and it's like, they just had announcements. What, are they going to show something cool? And then it's like, oh, he's
in the game.
He's Minecrafting in this game.
I think that they're trying to give Monster Hunter World as big an appeal as they can to get more people to just jump in and go ahead and try it. But it's kind of hard to really go ahead and do that because Monster Hunter is a weird franchise. I mean, it's a franchise that existed almost exclusively on handhelds for a long time. It did see a little bit. It saw a release on the Wii. I think it saw a release on Wii U as well. But it's primarily been a handheld series, and the series has barely changed since it came out on PSP. It's been really small changes and kind of iterative, whereas this is like a big process.
I know we're doing the PlayStation podcast, but what all consoles is Monster Hunter coming out?
Oh, I mean, it started life on PS2. It ended up on PSP and found a success there. Oh, PS4, Xbox One, and that's it.
That's it, not Switch?
I don't think PC. I don't know. I know for sure not Switch right now.
I didn't think so from after seeing the tech demo.
Can't happen.
You can't happen.
It won't work. Won't happen.
That was just a personal curiosity.
Oh, I mean,
because especially if you could somehow, 2 controllers, all that.
Sure. I mean, I don't know how that would work because you need more control than that. But next thing, we saw the Death Stranding trailer that they showed at Video Game Awards. Again, that was here and there. I mean, seeing it again was interesting. One of our buddies that we meet up here, one of our listeners, Ryan, he said that he didn't watch the Game Awards, so he didn't see it. So it was interesting for him. It was all new for him.
I didn't see it at the video.
He didn't see it at the Video Game Awards either. But showing the trailer in its entirety again, I guess was interesting for people who may have missed it. But it felt a little long in the tooth for me, specifically just because they had shown it.
And it was towards the end of the, after already kind of being like, okay, this is kind of dragging.
But the moment in between there where they kind of had, they had everything. They had that happen, and then Kojima came out.
Yeah,
and that was during the Andy House part where they were kind of talking about Andrew House because he's leaving the company. He's kind of starting to phase himself out. And it was kind of like his impact on the industry and how long he's been there. That was a nice part. It was like, kind of cool and friendly. And actually, the whole thing, that seemed like the most jovial and fun. Like they were just recounting old stories and having a blast. So that was really interesting and fun to see.
Well, I mean,
and I think
personally, as someone who
the fact that this is a different kind of conference.
As someone who kind of wrote off Death Stranding from the first few trailers, being like, okay, this is just not, not that I don't like Kojima. Just PT seemed so interesting. Like, oh man, I can't wait to learn more about this world. And this one's just like, okay, this is just, really, this seems like just too much.
Yeah.
And I like weird shit, but that just seemed like, okay, this is just too much. You're showing a baby a bunch, and this trailer was a little bit more of that, but at the same time, it gave me some, as far as just having not seen the trailer. I was like, okay, what the fuck are those things? It gave me questions that I actually cared to have, that I knew I could have the answers to and cared to have the answers to. Like, what the fuck were those big floating things? As opposed to being like, okay, there's a baby in the mud, and now Norman Reedus is a baby, and it came out of him, So I'd say it was worth showing, and them, it was long and too, but I think that had a lot more to do with the conference in general.
I would agree,
and just because at that point it's like, okay, these seats suck, this is kind of dragging, to give us something tangible, like a tangible date of something, which we knew we weren't getting on Death Stranding anyway. I'm talking about in general.
I know, but I do. I do.
Because that late in it was you're getting antsy because it's like, okay, where's the big?
Is there going to be a big?
The Last of Us 2 style, like last time? Hey, we just got one more thing to show you.
Which, don't get me wrong, I did not anticipate. But it would have been an interesting, flip on everybody.
I wasn't expecting it, but at the same time, you can't help but. Because that's what I'm saying. Just mentally at that point, and then watching it, you're like, okay.
Yeah, well, but my thing is,
getting a surprise.
I've said it a few times that I don't think that we should have seen this game again until they showed gameplay. I'm not saying it's just the worst thing in the world that they showed it, but I did not want to see it again until we saw gameplay and a release window. Not a release date. That's a little bit of broad, but I want to see it get the normal release treatment.
They're going to keep pumping this.
No, but. Kojima's the only developer that can really get away with this, and I mean, good for him. And I don't think it'll really hurt the game in the long run. But I just think it's setting up weird expectations.
That's a whole topic all on its own.
Yeah, it is.
The hype and marketing behind that game is very different.
Yeah. So moving on to the last thing for the conference itself was the Medieval PS4 remaster. Now, I like the way that it's set up. It was Sean wearing a jacket the whole time, and then Sid kind of being like, "Hey, see your shirt over there kind of peeking out. What is that?" Him undoing it. And it's funny how many people didn't even know at the beginning what it was. As soon as I saw it and I saw Sodan, I was like, wait a minute, Medieval. And it's exactly what it was. Now, it's a little disappointing that we didn't get any more than that. The announcement is good enough because there's been a lot of people actually big on, hey, we need to save Medieval. We need to get another Medieval. We need to do this. I think people feel like they actually got their voice heard with the Crash Bandicoot thing. So people are being a little more vocal.
And I think the fact that they didn't really show a lot on it isn't a big deal.
No,
those tend to move really fast. Because just Shadow Colossus went from being like, oh, hey, here's this cool little couple of snippets, like, oh my god, it's beautiful, to it's playable here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and I don't feel like this would be near as complex.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know if this would even be as complex as doing all the the Crash games. Those were 3 games.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, I've got to say that what I was hoping to hear is that they use the word remaster, but they've kind of thrown that word around in weird ways.
They only showed that one bit of the zombies.
So it's hard to know if it's going to be a ground up for the PS4 remake.
Even
by Bluepoint or someone similar that actually has like a little more beef to it and let the game really have a chance, or if it's going to be the PS1 or PSP game.
Do you think they know yet?
I don't know, but yes, because they specifically put 4K textures. What 4K textures on what?
Well, because when we were talking to Sid, he was like, "Well, which one would you like?"
Yeah,
which I know he's digging for info, but
who knows? But I mean, it's interesting with that situation. It's that saying 4K textures and remaster. Are you putting 4K textures on a PS1 game? Because that's not really going to do much. You really on the PS4.
I think it will get the Crash treatment.
I hope so, but if it's at least a PSP remake,
I don't have any attachment to this. Just looking at it logically, that's what I think it'll do. I'm not worried that if they'll do it, but I think just logically speaking, man, that's what they're going to do. Because especially with how successful Crash was, why would they underdeliver? Why would they underperform?
Because Medieval's never had the fan furor that
just be real. That's what I'm saying. I played all sorts of games. Medieval was one I was like, this looks kind of odd.
It's fun, but it's a very
with limited games as younger. It's like that's not one I wanted to.
Absolutely, but it's a smaller thing. It's a smaller setup. It's just I hope it gets better treatment to try and give it a chance to really thrive again. I think that you see a lot of games come back out and people are actually more hyped on them now than they were back when they originally released. Gaming's just in a different spot, and I think people can appreciate things like that a little differently now.
Well, but at least it was something to kind of wrap up that.
Sure. Yeah. So that's the last thing on the thing itself. Now, kind of going over to the show floor, with everything being scaled down on the conference side this year, they made sure that to reinforce, and they showed pictures during the showcase, that it was going to be a much bigger, much more fleshed out show.
The convention center has more room this year.
Absolutely.
And
the stage
they
have separate.
They have a stadium. Well, they have the stadium room, which is where they did the showcase, and
all the
that
panels.
gave a good 30% more room for all the stuff on the floor, and which
Probably
they really
more than that.
Yeah, close to half, I'd say.
Yeah,
and they really took advantage of it. There's big sets. There's big, the Days Gone set. A game I'm not even really just. I'm like, I might play that at one point, but. That's really cool. They have people in costume.
Yeah, people in costumes really cool. People dressed up like the freakers and really like reaching out behind fences and stuff. That was really cool. They had the bear and the motorcycle, and they had these little camera things where you can get the little pictures that do the movement thing.
And so they went all out.
They did.
The Shadow and and then the Detroit booth.
The Detroit one was really cool.
I wonder how much they got paid.
Yeah, so the Detroit booth is actually like a setup where you see when you're walking by, there's like the windows for the Android sales where the Androids are sitting in there and you can look at which models they are. And they had real actors in there, being mannequin style. And they did a really good job. And they were robotic and kind of weird in the eyes to kind of give you a sense of them being Android-like or robotical. It was very interesting, but I liked it. And then they started kind of pulling them through. That was fun.
Yeah. So all that. Great, fantastic! All the room, all the amazing sets, more people, more games there. You're not feeling crowded. Then there's things that are different, and I'm not sure how I'll feel about them. Stuff like it's a lot of it's based through the app. On the app, you can. For those who aren't here, for certain big demos like Detroit, like Shadow of the Colossus, you have to RSVP. And the RSVPs unlock at certain times of the day,
and they're very limited.
And limited slots. And we don't actually know if they limit how many times you can do it. So who knows if the same people are like, oh shit, I want to play Detroit again, or and doing that, and then a lot of people can't get in. They did that for the autographs, which at first I've got mixed feelings because last year we got pretty screwed on autographs because we went and waited in those lines because we want to see Troy Baker.
Sure.
And the way the lines did, they was mismanaged. The employees, it's not their fault, but no one communicated to them what they do. They just, and then the lines got swapped around. So this time, instead, you RSVP, and there's a certain amount of slots.
And you have to show them your RSVP QR code to get in. That was a good idea.
Good idea. And we got in to see
Justin Roiland.
We got in to see Justin Roiland. And then me and Brett both were trying to get into the Last of Us 2 autograph session. We sat there, a few minutes before it started, tapping just to see if it went up early, just waiting and waiting. And right when it went live, me and him both pressed it. My phone glitched for a second. The app glitched for a second. Brett got in, I didn't. I was like, that split second for people getting into this. 200 slots to see the cast of Last of Us 2.
Yeah, and that's so weird because the Accounting Plus had
biggest,
300.
Yeah, the account. Yeah, 300 to see Justin Roiland, which I know Justin Roiland's big in this kind of community. Like, not even because a lot of gaming people would like.
Yeah, enjoy Rick and Morty and stuff like that.
So you know that's a cross cultural thing, and Justin is doing a lot with VR, which I love too. But 200 people see the Castle Last of Us 2. I know they have a certain amount of time. I know these people can't do all this, but like you said, if they had made it a little bit more personal with that little bit, I mean, not even personal. Not like you can't talk. I get it. You can't talk to all of them, but you said they're kind of rushing you through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm like, if you're going to rush people through, man, just open it up a couple hundred more slots and just sign. Hey, how are you? Blah, 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 boop, boop. Just get them out.
I mean, and it's mixed bag because you're getting posters for the autographs. It's cool. I mean, it wasn't just the worst thing in the world, but
yeah.
I mean, there's that the RSVP thing for the main, and it's not RSVP'd all the way down. I mean, you have RSVP specifically for the games that they think are going to have the biggest lines. Because there was no RSVP for Monster Hunter World, but it did have a big line.
Yeah. So they did it for the big games. That sure enough, last year there was a few games. It's like, well, I would play that.
Yeah, but
if I didn't want to wait, an hour and a half.
Your entire day, the Horizon line was so long. It's like you'd spend 2 hours in the Horizon line to play it for 15 minutes.
So it just wasn't.
It's a little rough to say that, but I mean, the indie booths are just as fun as they were last year. That's where we spent a lot of time. I mean, we got to sit.
What I come to do.
We sat and talk, or we sit, but we stood and talked with the Super Meat Boy. Forever.
One of the creators.
Creator, yeah, one of the creators of the original.
Meat Boy, yeah.
And it's interesting to play that game. Changes that I'm not quite sure I like yet, but the game still feels good. And I think that given the time, I will get used to them. It was just kind of a system shock. It's still fun, though. Still had inklings of what I really enjoyed about Super Meat Boy, so it's good to see that. I had to talk with him about what the possibility would be for Vita, and
he grinned instantly,
he said what we all know is that the Vita has a very vocal fan base. But that vocal fan base doesn't always necessarily translate.
That he's thought about doing
sales.
a pre-order limited thing, maybe, but because he just doesn't know if that's worth it because they don't have the support. But I mean, indie booths have been fun so far. We played a game that's like a weird castle defense game where you roll through and have to make. It's called No Heroes here, and we're going to kind of do a video on that. I'm pretty sure, and that's going to be set up to. It's weird. The game's very simple. You have very limited mechanics. But the map, like the level design of the castle, and you have people coming in waves. The way it's set up, like you have cannonballs set up, and they shoot specific squares as things come in, and it's hectic because you're running between gotta make a cannonball, but you got to go grab ore, go put it in the furnace, get the bar, take it up to the tool, make a bar, make a cannonball, then we got to go run, get gunpowder, put it in. 4 players.
Yeah, and that game was actually really fun. So more fun than I really.
And especially
watching it looked pretty,
and especially if it has online where you can fill in those slots.
Yeah,
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, I'm sure it will
because that kind of added to it. Playing with strangers, and I'm like, God damn it!
The fact that it was co-op on couch though is nice because that's something that you could get together and do at a party. Or say we all get together for Christmas, and that's something I could actually see Hannah and Jess not having too much of an issue playing. At least early levels. It does seem like the game is going to get a lot harder. They mentioned they had 60-something castles, right?
Oh yeah, we played the first 3, and the first one beat us. I don't think that girl was even making it. I think she was taking the.
I don't know, but it was still fun. I mean,
yeah, it was fun.
It was an interesting game. I want to get back out there. I mean, yesterday ended up being a little split up between us trying to go to the gear store and stuff like that. So we are going to go check out some more games and get a little more footage. But I mean, overall, it's a good PSX. Last year was stronger in the showcase sense, but the show floor was weaker. So it is a trial and error thing. I'm happy to see that they are at least constantly trying to make sure they're evolving it in positive ways. Maybe next year will just be the great culmination of that it needs, where we have a really strong showcase and a really strong show floor. So I'm hoping that's what it is. But Blaze, you have anything else you'd like to add?
No,
okay.
Pretty good.
All right. Well, we will see you whenever we're back for normal episodes. Whenever I get back, and me and Saul will have a normal episode come this Saturday. So that'll be episode 38. This is a bonus episode, but it will go live as soon as we can get it edited and kind of posted. Thank you for listening to us. And like I said, you can always find us on YouTube and SoundCloud, any of the podcast services. And if you listen to us on iTunes or anything like that, we'd really appreciate if you'd give us a rating and give us a review. Kind of let us know how we're doing. It helps get us up there so a little more people can find us easier. But until next time, thank you for listening.
Thank you.